Welcome or welcome back to my channel. This is Liz Loves Books. Today we're going to be talking about some fiction releases that are in the month of June. So let's just get started right away because June 3rd is the release of Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, I'm filming this when it's already passed, but I've got the book. I'm super, super excited to read it very, very soon. And this is probably my most anticipated read of all of June, especially because it's been a while since Taylor Jenkins Reid has released a book, but it currently has 13,492 ratings and it's at a 4.52. So the queen has done it again and it's going to be great. But if you don't know much about TJR or her book, she writes a lot of historical fiction novels. She's the author of Daisy Jones and the Six and Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Those are her two most popular. She's also written Carrie Soto is Back and Malibu Rising. I have read all of her historical fiction books except for Carrie Soto is Back. That is on my 25 to read in 2025. So I'm hoping to read that one soon as well. And then I also have 4 of her other kind of more romance books that she published before these really big releases that she's got. But anyway, back to Atmosphere. This one is really interesting because it takes place within the NASA space program. So our main character, her name is Joan Goodwin, and it says, she has been obsessed with the stars for as long as she can remember. Thoughtful and reserved, Joan is content with her life as a professor of physics and astronomy at Rice University, and as aunt to her precocious niece, Frances. That is, until she comes across an advertisement seeking the first women scientists to join NASA's Space Shuttle program. Suddenly, Joan burns to be one of the few people to go to space. And this kind of takes place in the 1980s, so there's that little bit of that historical element there. So Joan was selected from a 1,000 pool of applicants, and in 1980 she begins training at Houston's Johnson Space Center alongside a bunch of really exceptional candidates. Top Gun pilot Hank Redmond and scientist John Griffin, who are kind and easygoing even when the stakes are highest. Mission specialist Lydia Danes, who has worked too hard to play nice. Warm-hearted Donna Fitzgerald, who is navigating her own secrets. And Vanessa Ford, the magnetic and mysterious aeronautical engineer who can fix any engine and fly any plane. So it's just going to be this whole story about all of these really smart, really intelligent characters. I'm just so excited for this release, I can't even articulate much. So if you haven't read Taylor Jenkins Reid, please read her books. They are absolutely amazing. Then, June 3rd, this one's already released and I have a copy of it as well that was signed, and it is The Listeners by Maggie Stiefvater. This is her adult debut. She has only written YA books before. She's the author of the Raven Boys series and a couple other series as well. But I was able to see her on her book tour and get the book signed and get my copy of the Raven Boys signed, so that was really, really fun. This book currently has 735 ratings at a 3.96. And the description of this one is kind of confusing. And so even when she was describing it at the book tour, I was like, wow, it's such an unusual setting that she's written. Because it seems like it might be historical fiction, but it takes place in a historical time, but that, and uses an idea from it, but that's pretty much all that's historical about it. So it takes place in January 1942. The Avalon Hotel and Spa has always offered elegant luxury in the wilds of West Virginia, its mountain Sweetwater washing away all of high society's troubles. Local girl turned general manager June Porter Hudson has guided the Avalon skillfully through the first pangs of war. So this takes place during World War II. The Guilfoyles, the hotel's aristocratic owners, have trained her well. But when the family heir makes a secret deal with the State Department to fill the hotel with captured Axis diplomats, June must persuade her staff, many of whom have sons and husbands heading to the front lines, to offer luxury to Nazis. With a smile. So this was something that actually happened during World War II. And I had no idea that it actually happened. These really luxury hotels would host these Axis diplomats and their families to get dirt on the war and have it be able to benefit the Allied powers. So very, very interesting. And it follows that general manager of the hotel, but then it also follows an FBI agent declared something and he's not happy. Now the rest, let's calm down. We can continue on. Another June 3rd release was called What Kind of Paradise by Janelle Brown. This has 1,032 ratings at a 4.22. Now, I haven't heard of this author before, but it was pretty high up on some of the lists that I was looking at, so I figured I'd talk about it. It says, the first thing you have to understand is that my father was my entire world. Growing up in an isolated cabin in Montana in the mid-1990s, Jane knows only the world that she and her father live, the wood stove that heats their home, the vegetable garden where they try to eke out a subsistence existence. Wow, tongue twister. The books of 19th century philosophy that her father gives her to read in lieu of going to school. Her father is elusive about their pasts, giving Jane little beyond the facts that they once lived in the Bay Area and that her mother died in a car accident, the crash propelling him to move Jane off the grid to raise her in a Thoreau-like utopia. So, father who's kind of eccentric and is like, I'm going to teach my kid only what I want her to know, and kind of have that more like restricted worldview on everything. Another June 3rd release is called Flashlight by Susan Choi. It only has 159 ratings and a 4.06 average rating. Says a novel tracing a father's disappearance across time, nations, and memory from the author of Trust Exercise. And I actually do have that book on my TBR. And I didn't even recognize the author. So that's interesting. Anyway. One night, Louisa and her father take a walk on the beach. He's carrying a flashlight. He cannot swim. Later, Louisa is found washed up by the tide, barely alive. Her father is gone, presumed drowned. She is 10 years old. Okay, that's all I'm going to read. And I'm going to add that to my want to read. Because, what? That's super, super intriguing. Alrighty. Moving on. Another June 3rd release. This is called Park Avenue by Renee Ahdieh. Has 286 ratings at a 3.97. It says, Gia's song was always destined for greatness. As the daughters of Korean bodega owners, she promised herself that she would have every Fifth Avenue luxury when she grew up, and it is all within reach. She is just made junior partner at her prestigious Manhattan law firm. She has two best friends who are always there for her, and she is even about to score the ultra-luxe Birkin bag of her dreams. Sure, maybe her love life is in shambles and she's spending too much time at the office, but she is set up to become the firm's next star. So when her boss asks her for a Friday morning favor, sitting in on the hush-hush family implosion of a high-level client, she accepts without hesitation, only to find that the client in question is one of the most famous Korean families in the world. And it looks like this family is called the Park family, so that makes sense as to why they call it Park Avenue. And with New York, I think that's really, really clever. So this one, again, is kind of just that typical, general fiction, or as some people like to call it, or not like to call it, women's lit fic and stuff like that. I do like that it's, focusing on Korean American families and everything like that too. So we're moved on to the 17th, because I didn't find any releases that really caught my eye on the 10th. This next book coming up has already been released, but it's just been translated and is being released in the US this year. And this one is being released on the 17th. It's called The Second Chance Convenience Store by Kim Ho-young, and it's translated by Janet Hong. And it has 9,347 ratings at a 3.93 because it was originally published in 2021. And this takes place in Korea. It says, in this million-copy international bestseller from Korea, the owner of a corner store takes in an unhoused man who does a good deed, a kind soul whose presence will transform the whole neighborhood. A heartwarming tale of community and redemption reminiscent of the best-selling novels of Matt Haig and Gabrielle Zevin. So this, again, is one of those kind of more typical Korean, Japanese, Chinese fiction novels that teach the readers a lesson and the characters lessons as well. It says, Duck Go lives in Seoul Station. He can't remember his past, and the only thing he knows for certain is that he could really use a drink. When he finds a lost wallet filled with documents, his life is drastically changed. Mrs. Yam, a retired history teacher and current owner of her neighborhood's corner store, is distraught over the loss of her purse until she receives a mysterious call from the person who found it. To thank this down on his luck stranger, she offers him a free meal from the convenience store. Seeing the joy the food brings him, Mrs. Yum impulsively invites him to stop by for lunch every day. So it's just kind of these three people and their connection that they build. Then we have another release on June 17th. This is The Poppy Fields by Nikki Erlich, and this is the author of The Measure, which I know a lot of people have read and loved. So this has 870 ratings right now at a 4.10. Says, what if there were a cure for the brokenhearted? Welcome to the Poppy Fields, where there's hope for even the most battered hearts to heal. Here, in a remote stretch of the California desert, lies an experimental and controversial treatment center that allows those suffering from the heartache of loss to sleep through their pain and keep on sleeping. After patients awake from this prolonged state of slumber, they will finally be healed, but only if they're willing to accept the potential shadowy side effects. So it looks like it follows a couple of different characters here who are all looking to, relieve this heartache that they have, even if they're all in different forms. And I think, like, the plot of it's really clever because, the poppy fields, you hear of that from The Wizard of Oz, and how when they go through the poppy fields, they all fall asleep. And they're just dreaming, and their life is no longer hard because they're just sleeping. And so this definitely has a little bit of like a science fiction element, literary fiction mixture. So I think I'm going to add that to my want to read right now. And then we have two more releases. This one is set to release on the 24th of June, and I need to get to it ASAP because I have an e-arc of it. This is The Girls Who Grew Big by Layla Motley. Currently has 309 ratings at a 4.26. So it says, Adela Woods is 16 years old and pregnant. Her parents banished her from her comfortable upbringing in Indiana to a grandmother's home in the small town of Padua Beach, Florida. When she arrives, Adela meets Emery, who brings her newborn to high school, determined to graduate despite the odds. Simone, mother of 4-year-old twins, weighs her options when she finds herself pregnant again. And the rest of the girls, a group of outcast young moms who raise their growing brood in the back of Simone's red truck. So it's basically just all of these younger women being pregnant or having children and just kind of them navigating throughout life and dealing with, all the changes that come with that. So this one's interesting. I can't remember why I requested it on NetGalley, or if maybe it might have been one of the ones that, like, you're just able to get an e-arc free, because I don't remember why I would have picked it. But we're going to read it and see how it goes. Then, lastly, on the 24th, we have The Accidental Favorite by Fran Littlewood. It only has 257 ratings at a 3.73. So this is kind of like one of those like family dramedy books. It says, Vivian and Patrick Fisher have done an excellent job raising their 3 daughters, Alex, Nancy, and Eva. They're well-adjusted women with impressive careers, caring partners, exciting hobbies, and sweet children. So it's with great anticipation that 3 generations of Fishers gather at a beautiful glass house in the English countryside for a week-long celebration of Vivian's 70th birthday. But when Patrick's reaction to a freak accident on the first day of the trip inadvertently reveals that he has a favorite daughter, no one is prepared for the shockwaves it sends through the family. So it's going to be about like sisterhood, family ties, and things like that. Your typical kind of, lit fic that a lot of people enjoy. So that is it for our fiction releases for the month of June. Let me know in the comments if there's any books that you're really, really interested in, or ones that you're excited about that I didn't include on this list. And I will see you in another video soon. Bye, guys.